Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Nat. Thank you all so much for joining me. Today, I'm super excited to share with you all the latest palette by Gourmande Girls. It's the Nevermore Palette, and this is their Halloween launch. This palette retails for $80 Canadian on their website, and like usual, I purchased mine from ifeelbeautiful.ca. On both the Gourmande Girls website and ifeelbeautiful.ca, you can purchase just the palette, or you can get a bundle with the Nevermore lip gloss, and that retails for $97 Canadian. This lip gloss was released with the Trap collection, but its shade name is Nevermore, so they're paired together. Let's just read off their website quickly. Step inside the gates of Nevermore, a world where shadows and sorrow collide, with 14 richly pigmented shades, from gothic mattes as deep as obsidian to spectral shimmers that glimmer like moonlight on tombstones. This collection was crafted for the bold, the romantic, and the ones who find beauty in darkness. The cover art is so cool. It's got a couple of ravens and the gates, like the gates to the Nevermore Academy on Wednesday. But I'm pretty sure this palette was inspired a little bit by Edgar Allan Poe and a little bit by the Addams Family and the current show on Netflix, Wednesday. This is what the palette looks like. What an interesting, fun color story. Let's get into some swatches. Please excuse my burn. This is what it's looking like. That's pretty good compared to what it was, but I'm giving it a bit of a breather from the Band-Aid and the burn cream because I am still trying to lighten it if I can. But like I said, this is actually pretty good compared to what it was. First up, we have Full of Woe. Creep. In Stitches, and Nevermore. Ooh, look at this one. And here are my fingertips. So this shade, it's not the shade issue. I moisturized my hands before I started filming, and I think I didn't give it enough time to dry down or absorb into my skin, so it's my skin that's a little bit sticky. Then we have Caramilla. Ooh, that's cool. Can you guys see the shift? Look at that. So Caramilla is what Gomez calls Morticia on the show Wednesday. It's like his pet name for her. But what a cool shade. Then we have Little Storm Cloud. My apologies. Again, it's just the lotion that I have on my arm that's making it a little sticky. It is not the formula's fault. It's like a nice bright periwinkle. Next is Shadows. Ooh. Cool. Look at that shift. Tormented. Again, it's the lotion. It's not the formula of the palette. My apologies. I should have planned this out better. And check out my fingertips. How cool. Then we have Raven. Ooh, a nice rich green. Lenore. You guys see the shift to that one? How cool. Supernatural. Exquisite Beauty. Wow. Fingertips. And the last two shades are Strangeness and Wednesday's Child. Ooh, check out the undertones to this one. In the pan, it's just like a dark chocolate brown, but it has such an interesting undertone. I'm into it. So these are the shades of the Nevermore palette by Gourmande Girls. And different lighting. I'm going to do 3 looks with this palette. And for look number 1, let's start off with the shade Creep and eyeshadow 03. Starting off in the outer corner, up into the crease area. Gourmande Girls formula is just incredible. The mattes are so pigmented, but super easy to blend out. Like, look at that. We're done. We're done with this shade for now. Next, we're going to go in with the shade Tormented and a Rephr 01. Same thing. Let's pat down some pigment. What a nice army green. Blending it up into the crease area. But not too high, because we still want that creep shade to peek through in the background. See, again, look at that. We're done already with that shade. Now let's deepen things up with the shade Raven and a 203 from BK Beauty. Stamping in some pigment in the outer corner. Ooh. What pretty greens. Let's drag this across the lash lines. And blend this up into the crease area. Pulling it across towards the inner third area. I'm just going back in with the Rephr 01 and the Tormented shade just to fill in this gap a little bit. Eyeshadow 03 with the Creep shade, just to bring some of this pigment back to the top edge and blending it out at the same time. Let's dip into the Creep shade again with an EO7 from Singe Beauty, and we're just going to put this in the inner third area. Taking the eyeshadow 03 with no added pigment, just to soften out the edge. Now let's pop on some shimmers. The first one we're going to use is Exquisite Beauty, and using just my finger, let's pop it on the outer third towards the center. Look at that. And now let's dip into the shade Caramia. Now switching to my index finger, let's put this in the inner third area. Whoa, cool. How fun is that shade? Going back to the Raven shade with the 203 from BK Beauty. And we're just going to put this at the edge of where the shimmer starts. And to deepen up the outer corner a bit. I just did this side of my face off camera so we can finish up this eye look. Let's go back in with the shade Raven and a 203 from BK Beauty. Starting at the outer corner of the lower lash line, let's just push in some pigment. And I've actually just pinched the edge of the brush so we can pull it across the lash line. And going in with the Creep shade and the EO7 from Singe Beauty. Just going to put that in the inner third of the lower lash line. And now I've just taken a tiny bit of the Tormented shade, that kind of olive army green with a Refer 01. We're just going to add that to the edge of the lower lash line. And now I just want to add an underbrow highlight. So we're going to go in with this shade from the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 3 palette and just a flat shader brush. I'm just going to pop that right here. I just did eyeliner and mascara off camera, and here's the finished look for look number 1. Let's jump into look number 2. I'm going to start off with the shade Full of Woe and a Shadow 04. So same thing, starting in the outer corner, crease area. Same thing, we are just laying down a background wash of color. Oh, the shade actually picks up better on camera than in my mirror. Next, let's use the shade Supernatural and a Refer 01. Let's pat down some pigment first in the outer corner area. And blend it up into the crease. I just love the undertones to these shades. Like in the pan, it looks like a gray, but when you put it on, it's not just a flat, boring gray, I think. And now let's deepen things up with the shade Wednesday's Child and a slightly dirty Shadow 00. Same thing, let's pat down some pigment in the outer corner. Ooh. Pulling it across the lash line. How cool is that? All of these shades just blend so well together. You guys know by now that Gourmande Girls is one of my absolute favorite indie brands. I am into this. I would wear this as an all matte look. I've just dipped into some of that Full of Woe shade and the Shadow 04 so we can soften out the edges. For shimmer, let's go in with the shade Lenore and just my finger. Let's pop that on the outer third, starting anyway. Ooh, look at this. How cool is that? And we're actually going to use this shimmer all over the lid. Wow. I don't know if you guys can see the shift, but it's definitely shifty. Okay, now I just want to scatter the edge a bit. So I've switched to my index finger with nothing on it, just so we can diffuse the edge a bit. And now I've dipped into a bit with my index finger so we can get it into the inner corner. I'm just taking the Shoto 04 with no added pigment, just to soften out this inner corner edge. And now let's go back in with the shade Wednesday's Child and a Shoto 00. Putting this at the outer corner to re-deepen the outer corner edge and to blend in where the shimmer starts. Let's gently pull some across to act as a background, just to create a bit of a shadow. And back to the Shoto 04 again with the Full of Woe shade, just to soften out the edge. As usual, I just finished this side of my face off camera, so let's finish up this eye look. I'm going to go in with the shade Wednesday's Child and an E25 from ColourPop. Starting at the outer corner, let's just push in some pigment. And gently pull it across the lash line. Let's dip into the shade Full of Woe and an E29 from ColourPop. And we're just going to put that at the inner third of the lower lash line. And now I'm taking a tiny bit of Full of Woe and Supernatural on the Shoto 04 just to blend out the edge. And same thing, I'm just taking this shade with a flat shader brush and popping it under the brow as a bit of a highlight. I just did eyeliner and mascara off camera, and here are the final looks for look number 1 and 2. Let me come in close to show you guys. And different lighting. For look number 3, let's start off with the shade Little Storm Cloud and a Shoto 03. Let's start off in the outer corner. Little Storm Cloud, if I remember correctly, I think that's what Gomez calls Wednesday. And let's just blend this into the crease area. pulling it across. So as usual, we're just creating a background color. Same thing on this side. And now let's go in with the shade Strangeness and a Referral 1. Let's pat down some pigment in the outer corner. Ooh, pretty. And using circular motions, let's blend it up into the crease area. Same thing on this side. Back to the Shoto 03 with no added pigment, just to soften out the edges. Now let's deepen things up with the shade In Stitches and a Shoto 00. So let's put down some pigment first. See if this works as a deepening up shade, and I think it does. It's more of like a gray with a bit of a blue undertone. Let's pull that across the lash line. And blending it up into the crease area. Same thing on this side. And now I'm just taking the Referral 01 with a bit more of that Strangeness shade, the one that has a bit of purple, the purple shade, just to fill in the empty space. And same thing on this side. And now let's go back in with the Little Storm Cloud shade and a Refer 21. Let's see if this works as an inner third shade. Using this brush might make the pigment a little darker than when we first laid it down using the Shoto 03, because that one is a diffused brush. And that's cool. Okay, same thing on this side. Now for shimmer, let's go in with the shade Nevermore, the palette name. And like, look at that. Whew. Okay, so let's put this in the outer third. Wow, that is one pigmented shimmer. We have some fallout, but that is okay. I'll clean it up in a little bit. I know this looks kind of crazy right now, but let's put in the next shimmer, Shadows. And this is going in the inner third area. Whew. Look at that. Blend these two together. Before we move on to the other eye, I kind of want to fix this eye before we move on. I feel like the shimmer shade is way darker than my outer corner shade. So let's try deepening it even more with Wednesday's Child. And let's see if this is going to work. Let's pat down. That's better, hey? Now I'm just going back in with the little storm cloud and the Shoulder 04 just to bring some of that periwinkle shade back to the top. Yeah, like that. Okay, now moving on to this eye, going in with the shade Nevermore. And shadows. Popping this in the inner third area. This Nevermore shade is intense. Now I'm just going back and forth to blend the shimmers together and to make it match this eye. Going back in with Wednesday's Child and my Shoulder 00 just to deepen up the outer corner. And blend where the shimmer starts. Just dipped into Little Storm Cloud with the Shoulder 03 to bring the periwinkle shade back. I just did the rest of my face off camera, so let's finish up this eye look. I think I'm gonna go in with the shade Strangeness and an E26 from ColourPop. Starting at that outer corner, we're just trying to bring back some of the same tones that we have going on the top to make the eye look more cohesive. Same thing on this side. Now going in with In Stitches and a Shoulder 00. Same thing, let's just add this to the outer corner. And now using the same brush, I just dipped into Wednesday's Child, the darker shade that I used to deepen up the outer corner. We're just keeping it at the outer corner. Dipping into Little Storm Cloud with the Refer 21. We're just putting this in the inner third of the lower lash line. And now we're taking the Shoulder 03 with a little bit of Little Storm Cloud. Just run this along the bottom edge. A quick underbrow highlight again. This time I used the lighter light shade. And now I'm just going to take my Sephora Pro Crease number 19 with a little bit of dim light. and run this along the edge of the entire eyeshadow look. I just did eyeliner, mascara, and I put the Nevermore lip gloss on off camera, and here's the final look for look number 3. Let me come in close to show you guys. And different lighting. You guys know that I'm a super fan of Gourmande Girls, and they've put out another outstanding palette with a super fun color story. All of their shades are super pigmented, but really easy to work with and easy to blend out. And as you can see, everything just works so well together. And that wraps up this video. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, or if it's nighttime for you, I hope you get a good night's rest. I'll see you next time.
Ha ha ha!